With Elden Ring right around the corner, you may be wondering what Souls-like games you can play to better prepare for a new From Software game. Or maybe you just want to try something new and play a game that takes the Souls-like system but gives it a bit of a twist. If you aren't looking to play From Software games because you've already played them, or you just want something similar, here is my Souls-like spotlight where I give you a few games to consider. And no, we're not going to be covering games just because they're hard, and because journalists call them Dark Souls. Sorry, Cuphead, although that is a game you should play as well. So here we go. Here are 3 of my personal favorite Souls-like games that I highly recommend. First up, we have Code Vein. Often described as anime Souls, Code Vein is a solid choice if you want to get a taste of Souls-like combat and gameplay. It comes with a nice different twist though, when it comes to equipping and using skills. Skills such as dashing, power attacks, reducing damage. You have to actually use these skills for a period of time in order to unlock them for good. And these skills are exclusive to different codes that you equip, hence the name Code Vein. Don't worry though, there's still plenty of Souls flavor to be had. So for one thing, you gain haze as you defeat enemies and bosses, and this is essentially your souls, which you can lose upon death, and you do get your 1 life to get them back, so that's very Souls-like. And then of course you have your variety of weapons, your variety of armor that you can find throughout your playthrough. You sit down at missiles, which act as bonfires where you can save, reset enemies, and level up. Code Vein is also really flashy, so when you do things like backstab enemies, it gives you really something to look at. And your character is so awesome to see because you get to create your character, and I gotta say, it's one of the best character creators out there. I felt it was top notch, one of the best I've ever experienced, because as you can see, this character looks a lot like me, but at the same time feels like it fits the story and the game, like she belongs there, and I really loved that, especially when it came to the cutscenes, some of the best I've seen. I really appreciate Code Vein because it took the Souls-like formula and made it their own, with very significant differences. One being that you have a constant AI partner. As you proceed through the game, you'll meet new characters who will join your fight, and you can select who you want to bring with you. You can also choose to play solo if you like, if you want more of a challenge. I did not. I actually did play with the AI characters, and I felt it was very fitting, I felt it was balanced, and how it was intended to play. And I even noticed that when I played better against bosses, the AI complemented my gameplay. It didn't just take over or do everything for me. It helped me in a way that it felt balanced still. And then when I played terrible and had a bad run, the AI would die quicker, and I was punished for it. So I felt like it was very balanced when it came to the AI partner, and it felt like there was still challenge to be had, especially with some of these bosses in Code Vein. Some of them are pretty difficult, even with an AI partner. So keep that in mind. If you do want a more challenging Souls-like game, I do feel like Code Vein is up there. Of course, you can farm, you can make things easier with the codes and the skills, and if you put in work, you're going to be able to use those to your advantage. But yeah, Code Vein is a very solid choice if you're looking for something new, something that takes the Souls-like formula and makes it their own. I highly recommend it. It is anime Souls, so yeah, man, if that's what you're looking for, you can't go wrong with Code Vein. If you don't feel like anime Souls, how about some third-person shooter Souls? Yes, I'm talking about Remnant From The Ashes. I loved this game, you guys. Like a Souls-like, you have your healing flask system in the game, you walk through fog doors to get to boss fights, and you have to manage stamina. And you also have classes to choose from, which designates the weapons and style of play that you use. And then over your playthrough, you're going to acquire trait points, which you put into skills. So things like more health, reducing stamina cost, increasing reload speed, and things like that. Remember, it is a shooter, and I felt like Remnant did a really good job at the variety of weapons, the variety of skills that you have to make the weapons stronger. Things like increasing weak spot damage, for example, With guns, I mean, it just makes sense to have traits like that, because you are going to aim at weak spots on their body, like their head, for example. You're going to want to try and get headshots, of course. So I really liked the trait system in this game. And man, do the guns feel so good. I remember when I first played this game, that was one of the main things that stood out. The weapons in Remnant are so satisfying. From the long-ranged weapons, to the shotguns, to the pistols. They sound good, they feel good. That really stood out to me in Remnant. I'm a big third-person shooter fan, so this made me very happy. On paper, when you think about third-person shooter Souls, it kind of sounds too good to be true, or like it's not going to be that great. But they really did well on this game. I thought that it was a good combination, and they really made it work. And the really cool thing about Remnant is that you can run it co-op as well. It does beef up some of the bosses from what I've experienced, but other than that, I mean, it's been pretty fun to do. Some of the bosses get pretty challenging, and it's easy to get overwhelmed by multiple enemies because you have to manage your stamina, you have to manage your movement and dodging, of course, and then you have to aim and shoot. So it's all those beautiful things put together, but with a challenge layer on top of it, where you could easily get overwhelmed and ambushed and surprised from an enemy behind you and things like that. It's very Souls-like in that way, where you're having to methodically take out these enemies and not just rush into it, because you can easily just get beaten down. And it is a pretty challenging game in that way. Being such a fan of third-person shooters, this game felt right at home to me. And, you know, just walking through fog doors, leveling up my character, and weapons, and finding more weapons and armor. I mean, are you kidding me? It's so good. I highly recommend this game. It's one of my favorites. It came out in 2019, one of the best games that year for me. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. So now, lastly, we've come to the third game of the video, the one we're going to end with, and that is Mortal Shell. Mortal Shell. Talk about a complete love letter to Souls. I mean, look at this thing. I feel like this game is to Souls what Hollow Knight is to Metroidvania. It's like the developers studied the hell out of what it means to be this genre, and they just aced the test. That's really how I describe Hollow Knight developers, and that's how I describe this game, because it just reeks of Souls. From the shortcuts to a familiar controller layout to how you enter a new area, it's all very Souls-like. Combat-wise, you have your R1, R2, light attack, heavy attack, you got your dodging with circle. This is, of course, if you're on a PlayStation controller, which you should be. The DS4, I highly recommend for all Souls-like. But anyways, I digress. L3 to run, R3 to lock on. Very familiar, right? There are key differences, though, with Mortal Shell. With one of them being the shell system, which is of course in the name Mortal Shell. You have a hardening move that you can do with your character, and it hardens the shell, which essentially is like a block. So you turn to stone for a few seconds and block enemy attacks. And it has a cooldown system, so you have to manage that along with stamina, and of course your movement and dodging and all that, your health, which is very Souls-like. But that shell and that hardening of the shell is what makes this game unique. The parry system is also pretty different, because you use this item that's attached to your hip, and you pull it out, and that's how you parry. It will stagger the enemy, and then sometimes it will act as like an execution prompt, where you can hit a certain attack and then it will kill the enemy or really damage them. It reminds me a lot of Sekiro's execution, because it's got that red circle on it, kind of looks the same. Or think of it also as like a visceral attack, kind of similar. Aesthetically, the world of Mortal Shell and the characters are very Dark Souls. It's got this grim, dark, gritty palette, which gives it like a very serious look and atmosphere. When you die, your shell is left behind, and when you go and pick it up, it gives you your health back. There's a currency in the game that's called tar, which acts as souls, where you will lose them upon death and you can get them back. So again, very Souls-like. Of the 3 games mentioned in this video, Mortal Shell is the most Souls-like of the group. So if that is what you are looking for, this really is the one. It's much shorter than a Souls game too, so if you want just a nice taste, you want something to play before Elden Ring or between other games, Mortal Shell is perfect. Definitely a great game, and I highly recommend. If you're into Soulsborne, Souls-like games, Mortal Shell, I believe, is a must-play. So that's my list for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna do a few more of these, so if there's some games in your mind right now that you can't believe I didn't list, they're probably gonna be in the next videos. So stay tuned for those. I wanna thank you guys for watching. If you're new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you liked the video, hit the like button. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye.